everyone. Check out this episode of Lauren Learns Things. Today, I have Kevin here to talk about receiving SMS messages with Vonage and saving them to Airtable. It'll be a super informative episode. I know you won't want to miss this topic, so be sure to check it out. Okay, hi, hello actually, welcome everyone. That was just a little promo clip we're trying at the beginning of episodes now, and we'll see how that goes, but yeah, hi, actually, hello. My name's Lauren, and my guest today is a developer advocate for Vonage, where his role is to support the local tech community in London. He's wildly experienced in event organizing. He is a board gamer and a dad to the cutest little dog called Moo. He's also the lead organizer for the conference called You Got This, a network of events. Oh, it's not a conference, it's a network of events on the core skills needed for a happy, healthy work life. Welcome, Kevin, to the stream.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy to have you. And tell me, what are we going to be building or learning about today?
When I first started to learn to code, I was a front ender, and the challenge I had was working with databases. I thought it was really scary. And recently I have started using Airtable, which is essentially like a Google Docs meets relational database online tool. And they have an excellent API that lets you effectively use it as a database. It's really, really cool. We are going to be getting messages in, and we're going to be storing them in an Airtable base, is what they call it, a database. And yeah, it should be really good.
Okay, neat. Yeah, this is my first time exploring Airtable before as a database, so I'm excited to see it and kind of dive into it. But welcome everyone to the stream, those of you who just joined in, and yeah, I'm excited to, we're kind of taking, diving into, I'm going to put it into the chat, the tutorial that you recently published on our developer blog, in which you kind of walk through the steps of it. But yeah, we're gonna essentially, this is the tutorial, what it looks like. But we are gonna work our way through it, if you will, and do all and the receiving of a message is, you know, just like slightly more complex than sending one out with Vonage, and so we'll kind of talk about that as well, I suppose.
Yeah.
Cool. So where? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, I'm not sure how we'll do this. We might end up using the SMS API to send responses. We might end up using the Messages API. The blog post covers using the new Messages API, so we might do that. But I suppose we'll just see how we're getting on and make a choice at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm down for either or both. IDK. Let's yeah. Okay, cool. So hey, those of you in the chat, how is the audio? It's my first time using Pretzel Routes. Is it too loud today? The music that's happening that you hear. And if you ever hate a song, just let me know. I haven't enabled that. Hello, hi Noreen. I haven't enabled the ability to. Oh, it's quiet. Audio's great. Okay, it should be quiet, right? Or should it be a little loud? I want eventually to do the like request a song, play it kind of thing. I just haven't gotten there yet with the stream. That's okay. It's this, me adding this is my little step of learning for the day. Okay, so yeah, if there's any thoughts on that, please let me know. Okay, so Kevin, where would you like us to do first when it comes to this tutorial?
I think should we start by looking at Airtable and how it works, and then we'll maybe set up some dependencies and do the slightly boring housekeeping stuff, and then we'll start building.
Yeah,
what do you think?
Absolutely, that sounds fine by me. I just created a Airtable account. It was really intuitive to set it up, but I think I'm at the home page right now. It has nice.
Yeah, so in Airtable, databases are called bases. So I suppose when you set up a new account, it sets you up with some like examples, which we're not going to use. We're going to set one up from scratch. And so you go ahead and click add a base.
Cool. Start with a template.
And just start from scratch, I think.
Yeah. Ooh, I get to pick.
Yeah. We'll set it up from scratch.
Okay. Ooh, I get to pick an icon. Ooh. Okay. Well, we're doing messages, so It should be a cute little message. Okay, really. Oh, here, cute. All right, got it. And I should name it, I suppose.
Awesome.
Receive.
Yes.
Oh. Received messages. Okay, got it. Anything else I need?
Sweet. Nope. Just click out of this and then go into the base.
Oh. Cool. Okay. Install a block.
I'm gonna. No. So we're gonna close this. So blocks you can add on to an Airtable account, and they kind of extend additional functionality. We're not going to use these today because you need a pro account to use blocks. Okay. So we're just going to go straight in.
Yeah.
And so let's have a quick chat about the different parts here. The first is, you'll see there's a tab called Table 1. These are known as tables, just like in a traditional database. Yes. So you can have any number of these in a Airtable base. Generally, you'll put like data together. Yeah. So for this workshop, let's create one called numbers. So we'll just call it numbers. Okay. We'll come and make this nice later, but let's add another tab, another table in this space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's call this messages.
Cool. Numbers. Okay, so who we receive it and what they are. Okay.
Exactly. We could store all of this in a single table, but I think the power of this is showing how they play together. So we'll go over to numbers. Let's set numbers up first.
Yeah.
So as I said, you can set up like any number of fields. Fields have types. There's like a nice list. We'll go through them in a minute, I guess. Yeah. And so this is data that we're going to store inside of this base. So I think some good ones for numbers is we'll probably want to store the actual number in the leftmost column. Now, the leftmost column is the most important one. It's what's known in most databases as a primary key. Airtable doesn't really show you all of this terminology because you don't really need it, but it's a primary key. And ideally, every single item that is in this column should be unique. So you shouldn't have duplicates. You can, it will let you, but in your power, you want them all to be unique. So inside of this numbers table, the actual number itself will be unique. So we can rename the first column to that.
So let's see, rename field. Yeah, so this will be number.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And let's take a look at the types as well in there. Sorry, that was the blue drop down, the one underneath the name. So if you double click that again.
Oh, the views?
No, back into the column where you renamed it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, the single line. Oh, cool. So you can say what it's going to be. And should we select phone number?
I think phone number, yeah. It does some validation and some nice display stuff for you. So because it handles validation, it should reject if it's not a valid phone number. So we have a number now.
Cool.
And we don't have to care about that. It already formats that nicely for us.
Okay.
I suppose notes can stay for sake of example. We probably won't use them. But the interesting thing is going to be how should we do this? You know what? Let's delete notes. Let's delete attachments. Let's start from scratch. So we can just get rid of those whole columns.
Got it. That field has been deleted. Now we just have numbers and attachments.
Let's get rid of attachments too.
Okay. Cool. We have just a number.
Sweet. For your screen share, I'm watching the stream itself, so I'm just a couple of seconds out, which is why I'm audibly a couple of seconds out. Doesn't seem to be a huge issue, but I'm just letting you know.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So let's add a column. Let's add a new column now. This is where we'll get to do something really cool with these two tables. We're going to get to link them, and this is where this is more powerful than just a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So let's call this messages. We can call it anything we want, but we're going to link it to the messages. So let's do that.
So do we want it to be the single
and inside of single line?
Oh yeah.
No, we want link to another record.
Oh yeah, of course. Oh, duh. And so then we can just grab messages because it already sees that. So allow linking to multiple records, sure. And then limit record to selection to
yes. No, just leave it all as is.
Cool.
Just leave it all as is and whack save.
Great. That's awesome. So now it's just innately pulling the messages. Okay.
Yes, and now something cool has happened in messages, and it's on the rightmost field.
I see.
It's automatic. So sorry, if you go to the messages tab, it's automatically created a numbers link. So they'll now be linked both ways, which is really, really nice.
That's awesome. Should I do anything in messages to that? Like, should we do the same thing of messing around with the fields?
Exactly, yeah. So let's change name, the primary field. I suppose we could change this to let's call it a
Text?
I don't know, it needs to be a unique identifier. Every message when it comes in using the Vonage API has a unique identifier. They call it a UUID.
Perfect.
So I suppose we could just call it a UUID.
And is it a single
it
line
already
of
is
text?
given to us. It's a string.
Yeah.
So let's leave it as a single line text. There are some really cool ones in here though.
Yeah, I bet. Or let's see, they had in that it was. You could do long text. Oh, maybe we want long text in case it's a long message. Barcode,
so the only difference
cool.
there is in the barcode is cool. Yeah. The only difference in Airtable between single and long text, I think, is visual in this. I don't think there is an actual data difference, an underlying difference. I might be wrong there though. So we have UUID. We'll probably also want to store the maybe when it was received.
Can I rename attachments
because we get that timestamp
and make it that?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Let's and then we'll also want to customize the field type. But yeah, we can call this received or whatever timestamp and change it to a date.
Created time, modified time, duration.
Does date have created time?
Oh, date. I see date.
Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, no, it's not created time. Created time is for the... Technically, they should be very, very close because we're going to put it straight in the database. But no, we can just put straight dates in there.
Okay. Good to go. Date. Oh, perfect. Search. Nice. And then... Okay. Save.
Yeah. Oh, let's include a time field in that. Sorry.
No, it's good.
That was one of the options in that
include a time
drop-down.
field. Yep, I see it. Format 12.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So what did here we just got some support article for Airtable. This is telling us all the different types of categories.
Oh, cool.
Nice. Useful reference. No, this is lovely. Cool. So, all right. Thank you. So now we have the numbers and messages. They are linked. What more do we need to do in this world?
I think in here, I mean, we'll need to do some more stuff with Airtable to get the keys we need and stuff like that. But I think in terms of setting these up, this should get us started.
Cool.
We can really easily later add more fields by just coming here, fiddling with it, and then we can use it immediately using the API. So, nothing is set in stone. So we can always come back here and fiddle with this later.
I have to say, I'm impressed by the intuitiveness that it laid everything out really quickly for me to play with. I'm so far pleasantly enjoying this. Thank you, Airtable.
I'm glad to hear that. The other nice thing about this, we'll see it more later, but one thing when you have databases in most contexts is you want some kind of admin dashboard, and this kind of removes the need for the admin dashboard because the people who need the dashboard can just come straight into Airtable and do what they need to do here. You can run queries, you can run filters, you can sort things, so you don't need to build all of that. That's kind of handled for you.
Cool. Okay.
And someone in the chat just said it's definitely prettier than Google Sheets, and I completely agree. The only caveat and the only real difference is this lacks flexibility to just kind of throw data on the side and do stuff with it. But personally, that's my style. I don't like doing all of that. I like it all being very standardized because it makes it easier to work with.
Okay. Interesting.
So yeah.
Okay, nice. So we have our beginnings of that ready to go, and someone is excited that you're on the stream. Henry, Helvetica.
Hey. Hey, Henry.
Hey, Henry. Thanks for joining. Okay, cool. And I think, Henry, we are connected via the MDE program, and so that's a fun Devrel trifecta moment, or like world separated.
Oh, that's cool.
Definitely. Okay, so let's see. What would you like us to do next? Maybe should I check out your tutorial? Oh, from Toronto. Henry, Noreen! Oh my gosh, love this. Communities,
This is
building
brilliant.
communities. Okay.
The official stream dance.
Yes.
That you won't be catching me doing it anytime soon.
You gotta keep your body moving. I've recently started doing my streams standing up, so I feel like I can just. I think you're standing too.
Oh, I'm doing the same. Yeah.
Just all the flexibility. Okay. No. Anyway, so in your tutorial, if you walk us through first and foremost, create a database, set up the messages, the numbers. Lovely.
Yeah, so I think broadly, at least at this point, we'll probably follow through what the blog post kind of says, which is, I think we'll take a little pause from Airtable. We've got it set up and we will come back to it shortly. But I think we should probably go set up a basic Express server, run it, ngrok it, and set up a Vonage API application. I think they're probably the good next steps.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. That's how I would
do these in any.
We could really, they're all plug and play, or choose what chunk you want to do, and then put it all together at the end. But okay, so we're in the code now. So all right, you want us to start up a ngrok?
I like doing ngrok first because it gives you the URL you need for when you create an application, rather than needing to kind of fiddle moving back and forth.
That's an insider's tip, because I always do it. I'm like making the application, and then I need the URL for it, and then I have to pause, go start up my ngrok, and then come back. And anyhow, I don't know, maybe the viewers on the stream, do you want to explain what ngrok is in general, just for folks?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. When you run an application on your computer, it's accessible to your computer and generally devices on your network. This is fantastic while you're just working all by yourself. But the Vonage API platform needs to be able to hit a public URL, something that it can actually see, and it can't see things on your network. So what ngrok does is because it runs locally. So what ngrok does is it takes an application running on a port on your computer, and it provides it with a temporary public URL that's good for development, which is good for the Vonage API to be able to access your application. And then when you're all done, you just stop ngrok. Recently, I'm not sure if you saw this, but recently Luke, who works with us, taught me that you can use npx and ngrok, so you don't even need to have it installed in order to run it, which I just love.
I literally just learned that this week as well. It's incredible. And and then Aaron just linked also the local development, like how to get started with ngrok, our tutorial.
Oh yeah, that's brilliant.
We try to link out in all of our, as you can see in our post that you did, you link it there also. We're trying to get standardized in the way that we explain things in our tutorials.
although I'm starting to get to the point where, like, with running the script through npx, you don't even need to install it. You can explain it and then just run this command, and as long as you have Node installed,
that's a good point.
It will just go grab it and run it.
Yeah, that's
so it kind of even shortens that further.
Yeah, maybe we need to do a 2.0. Noreen, I think who else from our team is watching this? Let's see, users in the chat. Who's on? Noreen, Greg, and okay, so we've got some folks from the team on the chat. So if someone could take a note, let's circle back on that in our team meeting tomorrow, because I think that's a really good idea. Anyway, okay, that's me in my manager mode, and let's switch back to live streaming. Let's run ngrok.
Let's run ngrok, and we're gonna run ngrok looking at port 3000. Okay. We don't have an application running on port 3000 yet,
nope.
But we will.
Yep. And Airtable, I have it already set up so that we can have a nice easy URL. We've got it. Copy it, and I'm gonna get another ngrok or another terminal going so that we can have that there. But okay, let's just pop this here so I don't lose it or forget it. Okay. And that I just have it in my have it right here in my browsers, just so as a point of like saving. Okay, so we have ngrok up and going. What would you like to do next?
Great, and that gives us what we need. That gives us what we need to go create a Nextmo application and point it in the right place. So we should probably go do that next.
Let's go back to our browser and okay, yes, Greg is saying, oh, and hi. Oh, because you're using Node, you're using ngrok and you're, okay, nice. And then also, Greg, did you know the MPX trick that we just were?
It's really sweet. You can just be like, you can just kind of be like npx ngrok http and then your port number. I did a typo there. It should be 3000, but you don't need to install it. You just do that and it runs, which is super sweet.
Yeah, super cool. Okay, enough geeking out about ngrok. It was something I had never experienced or like played with before joining Vonage, but now it's something I think about daily. It's just like,
I know.
Yeah, it's like, and I remember thinking about it in the beginning, being like, so I'm gonna make my local environment open, tunnel it to the world, like whoa, but it's not that wild. It's pretty cool. Okay, so we are going to hop over to our dashboard and create a new application.
That's right.
Right. Let's just refresh this page.
And if people are following along and they don't have an account yet, they can use the coupon code in the bottom right of the graphic to get some credit, and also it lists the restrictions on the account so you can use it fully.
Sweet. Thank you for referencing that. Yeah, that is a super cool thing that we now have, our coupons for all of our Twitch friends, and it's a Twitch specific coupon code, which I don't know. Do y'all remember how in the Dilemma music video, yes, oh my gosh, Noreen, do you know that we have a blog post on how to do that actually? It is a developer spotlight article written by Katie McLaughlin, I believe, who works at Google and is a friend of Vonage, and yeah, it is a hilarious tutorial on the title of it's like how to solve Kelly's dilemma of sending text messages through an Excel spreadsheet. Good throwback. Okay, anyway, let's see. We are now in creating an application. Obviously, thank you, Aaron, for providing the link to that tutorial. It is a incredible one. And thank you, Katie, for writing that one. Developer Spotlight Program, by the way, if you are watching and would like to build a product, or wait, what am I trying to say? If you have built something really cool with one of our products, you can write for our developer blog as well through the Developer Spotlight Program, and you get $400 for a tutorial. So come on down.
Indeed.
You can, thank you, Aaron, for including the link to that. I really appreciate it. It's you can do it for yourself or to donation. You can do write for donation also. So that is pretty neat as well. Anyway, we should really like get back to what we're doing. This is a receiving IB4E accept accuracy, receiving SMS, Airtable application. And what would we like? We're gonna do messages, we said?
We're going to do messages, so let's do messages first. So we turn on messages capability, just to note this is in beta, and we're going to need two URLs. The first URL is the inbound URL. This is what will be hit with data about messages when we receive them. So you just grab the ngrok URL, which is exactly what we want, and let's just go /inbound.
Sure.
Doesn't really matter what it's called as long as we take note. Let's call it inbound.
Got it.
And the second one is the status URL. Now we still have to build this endpoint, but this is for when we send messages and there's an update around where it's at on its journey, whether it's been accepted, delivered, read. We'll get some data about it. But so this is kind of status updates when we send messages.
Nice.
We do need to have both. And they both need to return something, even if we're not doing anything with them. And then the final thing is we should probably generate a public and private key pair.
Okay, we have that.
Wonderful. And I suppose private 15 in brackets.
I don't want to talk about it.
Someone needs to clear their downloads
I
folder.
know.
We will we'll need to move that file into our project directory.
I will.
Yeah. Maybe rename it without the 15, but
I mean,
essentially we use that for authentication.
Yes, we need that. Okay, so let's hit generate new application. And Aaron, you're right. I do need to top up my balance. Maybe I should add our Twitch coupon code. I'll show you all how to do that really quickly. Billing, coupons. Enter a code, Twitch 533. And boom, 21 euros. Okay, so now we have a application. If we were to go over to our applications, we would see it. Do we need anything else in here?
Go into the application, just copy the application ID.
Yeah.
We'll need it later. And even if you don't copy it now or it overrides, maybe just leave this tab open so you can grab it again easily later.
Sure. Done.
What else do we need to do here? Oh, we'll probably want to go get a number, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Or
and
I
link that
have
to
a
this
number,
application.
so maybe we could link one.
Yeah, if you have one that's not being used, by all
anything
means.
that's being used right now because this is the streaming account that I've created.
Sure.
So yeah, let's use just this one, the 201. And so I'll press the edit button and I will link. So here it is. It's everyone. This should look familiar. That inbound webhook URL is what we set up earlier when we were creating the account, or application. And I believe we just called it inbound.
We did call it inbound, yes.
Oh, it's currently linked to the Heroku message sandbox. I need to change that. Your numbers, how do I unlink it?
I think you have to go into the application, unlink it.
Okay.
Then it becomes available again.
I'll do that quickly. Unlink, you're right. Okay, and then maybe what I should do go back to that application that we just did here and link.
Yeah, you can do it. You can do it in applications. You can do it in the numbers manager. It's up to you.
Okay, we're linked.
Wonderful. I think that's everything we need to do over here. As I said, just keep this tab open. We'll find out when we inevitably have forgotten something important.
Yeah. Okay.
All
Fabulous.
right. So this is good.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're done here for now. We'll need that application ID later, but we'll just leave it open. Let's start getting everything ready.
Let's do it.
The first thing we'll need, this is blank. There's an index.js that has no lines of code in it. There's a terminal open at the bottom.
Yep.
I like starting with a blank
me too.
slate.
I love it. It feels exciting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So because we're going to install some dependencies from Node Package Manager, we should probably generate a package.json file.
Cool.
We can do that in the terminal by typing in npm space init and then space -y.
Okay.
And the -y just answers with the default answer for all the questions it would otherwise prompt you for. And because we don't really care,
right.
we can just get it to do the default.
Sick. We've got
wonderful.
package.json.
So now we have. And now we've got this, we can go and install some dependencies that we're going to need. Even though we'll step through slowly, let's just install the dependencies in one hit so we don't have to come do this step again. So we get npm install. We want the beta version of the Nexmo package, so Nexmo and then the @ and beta.
That's right.
We're using beta because the messages.
Yep.
Exactly. The messages API is in beta, so you need the beta version. We'll need Express, which is a web framework. We'll need body -parser, which is used as a body parsing middleware, and it allows us to kind of get to the incoming data in a more palatable fashion. And finally, let's just grab Airtable, because Airtable have their own npm package.
Oh, phenomenal. This will be my first time installing Airtable before.
Sweet.
Never. I meant to say I've never installed it before. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. There's always, if you're watching us install or doing Express work for the first time, body parser pretty much always goes together from what I guess. Installing without sudo. Yes, we have fixed my machine's environment. It is a really exciting time to be alive.
What?
Noreen joined me last week, and it was exposed that I had some poor, like when I installed Node modules a while ago, or maybe when I got my machine, I had incorrect permissions set up on it, so I had to do sudo on everything that I ran, and I just was too lazy to change it. I know, it was really bad. And then when I was cleaning out my desktop or going through and organizing all of the directories, I discovered that I had Node modules everywhere. I don't know if anyone can relate to this. I just must have run npm install in just the craziest, no, it's not the best word for it, but just the most random places on my machine. So they were everywhere, and I just did a mass delete, totally started again with, and it felt really good to have a clean, all of the files in my computer are organized, and I feel like it's a fresh blank slate.
Are you a desktop, throw everything on the desktop person? I'm
not, but I just also have I have lots of, directories, but it was bring back shut up, stop. It was so embarrassing. It was bad. It was, I'm not joking. Every single folder or directory on my computer, I had in Node modules. I ran npm install everywhere, home directory. It was so bad. Anyway,
well done.
Okay. Thank you.
Well done for fixing it.
Thank you. That's a positive spin on it.
Yes, definitely not in a sarcastic tone. Great. So we've installed these dependencies. They're in the package.json now. The nice thing about this is if we share this code base with someone, we can not share the node_modules folder, which is huge, and it contains all the code from those dependencies. We can just include this, and it explains to our npm installer what it should go grab. So that's quite nice.
Exactly. Okay, great.
So in index.js, let's crack on. So the first thing we'll do is kind of set up the most base Express application.
Yep. So we will require some Express moments.
We will.
And what else? We need.
Oh, I've just noticed double P.
Where? In mine? Oh, you'll.
It's all right. I got it. I
cool.
squashed
You
it.
can fix it in there. And then you need that too. Let's see, body parser. That's cool that you can edit it on here too.
I'm kind of into this, yeah.
Yeah, we're using yes, live share. Okay, body parser.
Yeah, and then we're going to configure body parser in our Express application.
Teamwork, yeah, baby. Love good teamwork. So yeah, so we will use it. That's just the ability to grab it, and then this one, these are boilerplate,
Some
I guess.
config.
Yeah, some things that you'll always see, or often see in a config file for Express. But yeah, of course, then we need to do this piece where we actually tell it to listen to the port that we set up with ngrok running locally. Cool.
Exactly, and because we've done this, now when we run this application, our ngrok URL will actually be hitting this application that we are about to write.
Exactly.
Which is wonderful.
Neat. Very cool. Awesome.
Let's continue by just setting up our couple of endpoints in the most basic fashion. We won't do anything fancy with them. We're just gonna build them out.
Yeah.
So endpoints require two pieces of information. They require an HTTP method such as get or post. In this case, the Vonage API will send us data using a post request. So we'll go app.post.
Okay. And then we pop in the endpoint that we, right? Was unbound?
Exactly. And the second argument is a callback function.
Okay.
So this will run In fact, in my blog post, I use async, but I'm not actually
I'm not sure why. Yeah, but I'm looking.
Not sure it's necessary.
Do you want to try it without it?
So it's necessary. Yeah, let's get rid of it.
Okay.
Let's get rid of it. While I was writing the code for the post, I went through a few iterations and I simplified, and I just happened to miss that keyword there.
It's good to. That's what's kind of nice about. You can always update the blog post too afterwards, and this is. I find that doing this, like stream, is a nice way to actually catch things like that, as we have seen in other like prior streams. Do you in your blog post you have a log? Do you want to see that too, just to see what's happening in there?
Let's do that.
What's in the body? Sure. Okay.
Yeah, and we can access the data using .body because we've included body parser in this application.
Yeah. Exactly.
We should probably also just copy and paste this endpoint in its entirety and create a status endpoint as well. We won't do anything with it, but we do need to create it, and naughty me didn't include it in my blog post either. So that will be slash status. Let's just get rid of the console.log. Like, we are going to do literally nothing with this, but we do need to return a success or return some data or something. So
Vonage API the same that it's a post. You want it to be a post too?
Yes, yeah. It is a post request because it will come with a packet of data with it.
Fabulous.
Wonderful. So we've got that. Yeah. Fabulous. I think at this point we should maybe give it a go. See what logs to the console.
Why not? All right. That sounds good to me. So let's run. What are we running? Node.
Yeah, and then just index.js. And the fact that that's running means it hasn't crashed. So well done.
Fab.
And now we probably just want to text our number from our long virtual number from the Vonage API platform. As I do not have a US number, I will leave that in your capable hands.
Yes, I will do that, and I will go back actually as you all. Let's look over at our application, and I'm gonna text that number right there. 1201 535 8681. You're all welcome to try this as well if you would like to at home. Okay, I just did. Let's double check.
Hopefully we'll get something in our console shortly.
8681. I always get these wrong, so I should probably double check. 535 8681. Yeah, that's. Ouch. Got bit by a mosquito last night. Ooh. I think I'm itchy. Well, let's pop over to Brock. I don't see anything happening just yet.
Neither do I. We'll give it another moment. Sometimes SMS messages take a little while to arrive, and if it's not working in another 15 or 20 seconds, we'll try and figure out what we've done wrong, if there's something we've done wrong.
Yeah. This would be a fun moment of crowdsourced debugging to find out what everyone watching, where they would start looking first, or what would you do in this moment to search for the error. But maybe we won't have to, but I think we do.
There's something quite nice with ngrok, and it'll actually log all of the requests it's received in there, so we can see if it's made it to us.
Yeah.
If it hasn't made it to us, we know the problem is before it's hit our application.
Yeah.
Yeah, is it hitting ngrok is the question. So go over to the ngrok tab, and we just make this a little taller.
Oh, you mean in our terminal?
Like make the terminal a bit taller. It's just underneath. Henry said, "I just got a message. Are you following along?"
Ding ding.
Ah, look at this. 404 not found. Have we made a typo?
So Aaron, you were saying it has the web interface as well, so I was popping over to that. But what do I have to hit? It's not just this. Don't I have to do...
It's there in the terminal. The link is in the terminal.
Oh, that was a joke. Local. No, it's okay. I appreciate it. localhost 3000. Oh, 4040 because that's the.
That's right. That's where ngrok is running its web
tells you
interface.
yeah, this is cool. Okay, so let's go back to our code and take a look at what's happening.
In fact, it said it right there, and I remember this now. And is my whole blog post wrong? Quite possibly. So we'll notice if we go back to the web interface, it actually tells you all of the, Aaron picked it up.
Yeah.
So if we go back to the web interface, we'll notice that it is trying to hit the inbound endpoint using the get method, which doesn't exist. Yeah.
Okay, so that is over.
There is a platform reason for this. Yes, and it's SMSs. I don't think come in the messages API payload format yet. So they look slightly different.
Okay, so to fix this, our code is a post. We need to change in our code, or sorry, what am I trying to say? In ngrok, we want it to be a post. Is that right? Or do we want it to be? So
ngrok we don't touch. It's still open. It's still working. But it's told us that it tried to hit inbound with a get method and got a 404 because that doesn't exist. So what we want to do actually is go back to our code. Instead of app.post inbound, we want app.get inbound.
Okay.
Great. And now let's rerun the Node application. And take a look at and maybe send another message to it.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we'll see what we get.
I'm going to keep the ngrok browser open on the view for y'all. Okay.
Cool.
And we got a not from 201 503 535.
Inbound. Are we both doing the typo check?
Okay, there we go.
Oh no, there it is. There it is.
It
came in.
It came in. All right. So, and then look, we got back here
what we got though was an empty object, and we got one for all the messages you sent. They get backed up because it never responded with a 200. So let's just debug this together, I guess.
Okay.
This is very interesting. Why did it work there and it doesn't work now? Right, tomorrow we'll find that out. So what we're probably going to want to do is just console log rec, and we'll see the whole page. We'll see everything, and we'll find where your message is located within it.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that. And I'm gonna just does a get have the same request rec.body?
Well, if it did, then it wouldn't have just posted an empty object. It would have posted that would have been populated. And the fact it didn't tells me that it's not the case.
We got it. Lots of stuff. Let's see. Let's go to the top and then just work our way down.
So Aaron said what I think we're looking for, which is when it's a get request, it gets passed as a URL query. So it's probably in rec.query.
Okay. The underscores. So let's go to, so rec.query, and here's all of the information from it. Cool. So,
that's one.
So, everyone watching that doesn't know the Vonage APIs intuitively, the way that we all work with it, what we're running here is this is all the stuff that you receive when you send that. When you set up that inbound webhook and URL, and so all of this is stuff that you can play with. But now that we've specified exactly what we want to console log, we can send it again and
just to get the object, and we can take a look at just that.
Cool. So now I just sent that message on my phone, and we can see that there. Beautiful. Cool.
Thank you very much for shortcutting that, Aaron. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So we have a few things here. We have the MSISDN, which I can't remember what it stands for, but that is like the what's it called? The standardized name for a phone number. It's the standard number identifier. Yep. So sometimes they're called different things in different countries. MSISDN is the standard. It's what we call it. We have the to number. So that is the.
I'm gonna just go get my burner phone really quickly because I'm doing.
Oh, did you just? Yeah, well done.
Yeah. You just entertained the class real quick. 1 second.
Yeah, not a problem. So there are a few. I'm not going to do the string dance. So there are a few other things we'll get as well. We get the timestamp when the message was sent. We'll get a reference to what Vonage API number you sent the message to, and we'll obviously get the contents of the message. I think there are a couple of other little bits of metadata as well, but they are not as exciting. I think we also get your API key. This is the stream dance.
And that's okay because that we set up with the stream 8681. We set up with the key like that. It's okay. Hi, burner phone. That's not how you spell that. We stream dance. This is so funny. Why did I buy this thing if I'm not going to use it? Is just something to think about for the future. But okay. Okay, now I've sent it again. Now we can see it. Beautiful. We can, yes. So look, that's a phone number, and this is the text, and we know that it's a type of Unicode because I needed to use an emoji in it.
Amazing.
Wow, that is just.
We also, there's also a message. Well done.
Thank you.
There's also a message ID, which is the unique identifier for this message. When we get inbound messages on using some of the other platforms, it's called a UUID. So that's why I called it that earlier, but it's a unique message ID. Anyway, that is what we require. So now we've got this, I think it's time to actually try pushing it. Okay. Pushing some data to Airtable, and let's just try it out.
Okay, cool.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. I think if you can see, some people are also messaging that phone number. I'll put the phone number in the chat. If y'all want to tell me, I don't know, what are you doing?
Oh, hang on.
Oh, what?
If you all also, when we get over, like, just be aware, by all means, your phone number will be in this stream, and it'll also come up again when we hit Airtable, the visual interface. So just, if you're happy to, by all means, if you don't want that,
great clarification.
Be proactive. Yes, so just be aware of that.
Yes, I will put it in the chat, though, with that disclaimer noted. It is 535-8681. Your phone numbers will be public. Okay, what is our next step?
Okay, I think our next step is going to be, so this is, we're about to hit something in Airtable that I really dislike. Unfortunately, it's one of the only very few things that get me a little. So every record in Airtable has that primary key, right? It has that field that should, in theory, be unique. Are you okay for me to continue while you stepped away?
I just had to, sorry. My Android is
all good. I wasn't sure if you were just like, this is terrible. I'm out.
Goodbye. No, I need to charge my phone.
Every record in Airtable also has an Airtable provided like unique identifier that they give you nowhere in the visual interface. You'll only ever see it when you interact via the API. So we're going to have to do something with that in order to get the link between the two fields to work. So for example, when we're linking messages to numbers, when we provide the number, we can't just provide the number, we need to provide the ID of the row in the numbers table. So there's a bit to chew over there. But instead of going and taking this code snippet from the blog post, I think we'll kind of build on top of it. So we'll start a little bit easier, and then we'll get to this point. I think I might have jumped in a little deeper in here where I've done the whole explanation underneath, but I think we'll just we'll take it a step at a time.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
So the next thing we're going to do in our code base is we are going to set up Airtable. Now, in order to set up Airtable, we need two things. We need our Airtable API key, So let me think about how we're going to do that, because at some point that's going to need to make it into this program in a way that we don't really want to share with everyone on the stream.
Okay.
So it's probably a good idea to use an environment variable.
Like a .m file?
Like a .m file. So I think we'll probably set one of those up, which I don't cover in the blog post because it isn't necessary as much, but I think on the stream it will be. So we'll probably want to set up a .m file.
Yeah. Cool.
And let's set up 2 keys in here. Let's create one called Airtable key.
Yeah.
And we'll come back and put the value in, not on the stream. And we'll also do one called Airtable base.
Use my favorite scene that you all have seen before. Secrets! Ah! And what's the other one? Sorry.
Sweet. So we'll look at Airtable base.
Okay. Cool. And
so,
do we need to? Yeah. All right. Cool.
Let's go grab both of those. So I'll tell you when you need to turn your secrets scene on. So if we go over to Airtable, and now we're actually going to go to airtable.com I think it's /account. You know what? We can do this actually by just going to your head in the top right and going to your account.
Okay. Got it. I'm there.
Wonderful. Now you want to turn your secret scene on, because annoyingly, the moment you so there's this API heading. The moment you click into the box to copy it, the bullet points the field.
Okay, so I'm just showing it now. Share. I'm gonna click. Everyone, just FYI, I'm clicking this button, but I'm not going to show you because it's secret. Cool. So I have that, and I've copied it
in the .m file.
Okay. And that is going to go in the key. And then what about the base?
The other one we are going to put in .m, but it doesn't really matter if people see, because they need both the key and the base. For the sake of this workshop, the base is not really as important. So we're going to want to go to the base in your.
Gosh.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Oh, were you
the secret scene was on. Don't do
frick, I was just kidding. Oh gosh. Like I instantaneously, I'm like instantly sweating. Okay.
For what it's worth, on Airtable that isn't a huge problem. They have a regenerate API key and it invalidates the old one. Fabulous. So if you think that's happened to you, if you think you didn't turn on your secret scene, just regenerate the key.
Cool. Fabulous. So what then should we do? Okay, so we'll find the base.
Yeah, so let's go over in your web browser to the actual base itself.
Okay, there.
Like the Sorry, I'm still looking at the screen for the video. Now if we take a look at the URL, we have airtable.com/ and then an identifier, an ID. And then, so I'm talking about the URL, and then if we go /, then there's another URL. So let's talk another string. So the first one is your base, and the second one is your view. The view is both the tab that you're on, plus where it says grid view, you can set up some like filtered views. We don't really care about those. We want the first thing, so between the first / and the second. That is your base ID.
Okay, I'm going to add that to my .m file as well. Save it and then close it, and then in the code, it's there, but we're not looking at it. Cool.
Yes, we are going to need to include this though. So we're probably going to want to kill your Node app and include .env as a package.
Yeah, good call. Greg, next time just sudo the screen command. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we will we're npm install .env.
Okay. Yeah.
Is there a hyphen? Is it? No.
No. No.
Thanks. So we are installing that.
And then in the top of the application, we can just type in require. You don't have to initialize this as a variable. You can just go require and then .env. So in parentheses now, require, and then in quotes .env. And then after that, we can just run the .config method directly on this. So after the parentheses .env, .config, and then 2 more parentheses.
Friends, right? Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, that's right. So now we have access to all of our items in .m using process.m and then the key that you gave it inside that file. So that gives us access to Airtable key and Airtable base.
Okay. And when do we use that, or where do we? We're
going to do it now.
Cool.
No, I'm there. Don't worry, I'm here. I'm awake. Let's underneath the app.uses and before the first endpoint, let's require the Airtable library. So we can do that with const Airtable equals require Airtable.
Okay. Yep. Cool.
And then we are going to initialize this. So we're going to create a variable called, it can be anything, we're going to call it base. Okay. And we are going to create a new Airtable instance. Okay. And so in there, we're going to put an object with some options. We are going to provide it with an API key. So API key, : and then the value of that will be process.env.api key. And for people playing along, that can just be a string.
Yeah.
But if you do it as a string, just make sure you don't share this file with anyone before you remove that, or before you use it like a. Exactly. And then we can, so we can do this as several lines, but they make it quite easy to do this. Yeah. So now on the end of that line, we can just run .base as a method.
Okay.
Then and then in there you just put a string. Yes, and in there you just put a string, which is your base ID, which we so because the process.env.airtable base is a string, we don't need to wrap it in quotes, but it is a string. So this just has Airtable.
Wait, process.env. What did we call it in the end file?
Actually, I think we called it Airtable key, not Airtable, not API key. I'm not sure what we called it.
Let's just.
If I go over to another file,
I don't know.
I don't know.
Airtable key and Airtable base is what I called those two things. So this needs to be changed. Airtable key. Hey, welcome to the stream, Demetrius. Oh, cool, Demetrius. Nice to see you. Demetrius just taught me a lot of different things about streaming with the Cloudinary MDE team, and I learned a lot from him.
Awesome.
So yeah, thank you. Thanks for being here. Okay, so we
Thank you for joining.
we were gonna just call that Airtable. Shoot, now I forgot what we called it. Airtable key and Airtable
base.
Thank you. It goes in one ear, out the other. Sick. So now let's see if we can, no, we can't make that any smaller. We support, I don't play around. No, Oh, you're looking at our browser. That's right, because we had to pop over to the end file really quickly. Thank you. Let's go. I really appreciate the support. Thank you very much.
Sweet.
Okay, so.
Do you want to just scroll over to the right so people can see that whole line?
Yeah, for sure, because I didn't have it on. Okay.
It's quite a long line.
Yeah, and this is that base is an Airtable. Oh shoot. Method, and then so we're pulling in that base from that we found in. Let's just pop back to the browser. It's this in the URL, right? Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, yes, exactly. And the reason, and we can do this in one line because we're only going to interact with one Airtable base. But once you have created a new Airtable instance, you can then connect to multiple bases if you want to separate them out to several commands. But we just want one base, so this is fine. This is appropriate.
Very.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Cool.
Right, so we've now got Airtable ready to go. Base will be equal to our Airtable base.
Mm-hmm.
So inside of the inbound handler, let's get rid of console.log. Let's just remember rec.query. I will remember it.
I'll write it down just so I don't forget.
So that's where our object is.
Yeah.
And let's go and just push a new. Let's just go push a new message in. We won't link it to a number to start. We'll just push the message in just to check we've got this link with Airtable working.
Airtable. So we want to be able to see the message show up in our base.
Exactly. In the messages tab.
Okay, that feels good to me. How do we do that?
So let's go over to Airtable first and just refresh ourselves with how it looks. There's something we need, and I can't quite remember the answer to it. So if we go back over to, yeah, that was a lifetime ago. All right. So if we take a look at these tabs, they're called messages, all lowercase, because the case sensitivity is what matters. This is what I was looking for, and numbers, all lowercase.
Yeah.
Messages have a UUID, a timestamp. What are we missing? We're missing a thing for the actual message itself. We've got a UUID. We've not actually got the message. Let's set up a new column for that. A new field, I think, is what we call it.
Right.
Oh, people are saying it's a little hard. Oh, stream chat.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry,
No.
I
asked Demetrius for feedback on how like the layout of the stream looks and everything, and just kind of like what the setup of this looks like. And I agree. I almost think we never get like a ton of activity in this chat either. So I think I'm giving too much in my OBS scene for it. But thank you. Thank you. I would love to chat more about it afterwards. But yeah, I agree. Cool. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Let's add a new field in this messages space. We actually missed the one that will contain the text. We've done the UUID, brilliant. We've done the timestamp. We've done the number. We've actually missed the one that will contain the text, which is probably the most important one.
Yeah.
Let's call it like message.
Yeah, the actual content of the message. Do we still want it? This, for some reason, I think I was thinking that that our original, the indicator one, the unique one over on the far left, the key was that, and so I think that's why I was like, oh, let's make it the single line.
Yeah, which makes sense.
But do you want that type to change, this one? Of the
No, I still think we should store the UUID because that is the unique identifier for a message. They called it message ID, or we call it message ID, but it doesn't matter. We'll leave it as is. But we've got one for message now, which is what's important.
Okay, cool. So now this is great. That's where we'll see the actual text of the message. Cool.
Great, and remember, it's messages all lowercase. So let's head back to our code,
okay, I will do that.
And it's the case sensitivity which matters. That's why I wanted to come back over and refresh ourselves, as well as just looking at the fields again. So inside here, let's go inside of the inbound event handler. Let's go base, which is our Airtable base, and then in parentheses, we will do quotes and we will say the name of the table, which is messages, all lowercase. If it was a capital M in the base, it needs to be a capital M here. Annoyingly, this is where making changes in Airtable will break your code. Just be aware that when you're changing stuff in one, you change stuff in the other, because there is no other identifier for that table. So next we're going to go .create.
Okay.
And that is a method. So parentheses that take an object for its options. Okay. So in here, we can actually just start passing it key value pairs. So we have something called, let me scroll up in the terminal because I can still access
message. We have.
Yeah, so UUID will be equal. So let's do UUID first. So UUID will be equal to rec.query.
Oh yeah, rec.query
dot message ID is what we call it when we send it over.
Like that?
So that's the first one. The next one, that is right. And then the next one will be the message, perfect. And that we just call text. So rec.query.text. So rec.query.text.
Text. Okay.
Sweet.
And then again, these are just FYI, folks. This is remember when we looked at that massive console log of what the rec included. This is just the part of the object that we were seeing in the query that we're trying to pull out. Yeah. Cool. Is that all we need from it?
And then there was one more. What was it? Oh, the timestamp.
Oh yeah. Let me just double check that this is how I spelled it. And then we're not doing the number yet, you said?
No, we'll do the number later. So timestamp will be equal to rec.query, And because this property has a dash in it, well, I think the easiest way to do this will be, it'll be rec.query, and instead of dot, let's do some square brackets. It's just another notation, but it allows us to do this. And then, yeah, and then we'll do a message dash timestamp.
Like that?
Perfect.
Beautiful. Okay. That looks good.
So let's try this again. Let's try this again.
As in, like, run our node.
Let's restart the server, then let's send a text from your burner phone this time to our long virtual number.
Okay. Let's get this puppy out.
We shouldn't see anything in the console this time, but we should see something in Airtable once it's done.
Okay.
Or an error in our console.
Okay. And everyone, you know, you're welcome to try as well. I just sent one.
Oh, there's an error.
Oh, no.
That's okay. Let's take a look.
I know. I should learn to not be so nervous about an error.
Originated by throwing inside of an async function.
Ooh, remember when we took out the async?
Yeah, but I'm looking at my code now and I'm wondering what I was thinking.
What do you mean? Oh, your tutorial?
Why, yeah. I mean, we're not following it like verbatim, but we're following it fairly well. So what's the unhandled promise rejection? The error either originated by throwing inside of an async function without a catch block.
Is it a warning or an error?
Is that a warning or an error? Oh, actually,
it is a warning.
Good question.
Good
I think it's a warning. I do still want to resolve it because I don't like this. This isn't feeling amazing. Before we continue, actually, can we just take a look at Airtable and just see if we've done stuff?
Would it immediately show, or do I need to refresh?
No, it should immediately show.
Then it didn't.
It did not.
Dang-a-lay.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, that's okay. We can
that's
do
fine,
this.
Because the second argument inside of the base messages.create. So the first one was this object that is the object we're pushing. The second parameter is actually a callback function. So let's go ahead and do that. So after the closing squiggly bracket, we'll do like a comma, and then we'll do.
They said we can add a listener for those.
Incoming emotes. Dang. I don't know what this means.
Well, I said.
Let's use their built-in callback first and just see if it gives us anything a little more meaningful.
And then
we'll
try it all.
Yes. So we'll go after the .create, after this object closes here.
Okay.
We can do a function. And the function can just have one parameter error.
Okay. If you just want to, like, not even like an if statement or anything, or yeah.
Oh, I mean, we'll still do an if statement inside of it, yeah. So we'll go if error, console log error.
Yeah. So I'm late to this, but using Airtable as a DB to pull against. I've seen this pop up more and more. To pull against. This is.
We're actually.
Yeah, go ahead. No, please. I'll write the error.
We're actually Brilliant. We're actually going even more basic here. We are simply getting inbound messages. We're storing them in Airtable and then responding to the user that it's being logged. We're not polling against it, though that is a very small jump from what we're going to do today.
Yes. And otherwise, console log.
Let's just console log just like a success. Yeah. Although something tells me we're not going to hit this.
We won't see her just yet, but I mean, rec. Is it rec.status?
Oh, we do not need to do this because it is outside of this whole .create thing. So we've already got one on line 20.
Oh, you're right.
Not the nicest way to write code. So we'll want to ideally throw an error when there is an error, but we'll just leave the res.status. We'll maybe leave the console log in there, just so we get some feedback when it's been successful.
Okay.
Perfect. Let's restart our node server and then try again.
Okay, cool stuff. Yeah, it is. It's just we are trying to see it show up in. Oh, okay, I should try it again. Just trying to see that saved message to like save them because, you know, it's nice to know when you get a message. Especially if you're like running a app that is, getting, oh, here we go. Okay. So we could not find
I am going to go out. I think the issue is the base ID. I think they might have slightly changed how it works. So what we're going to do is we are going to, let's go now. Oh, I love this page. Let's go to airtable.com/API. They have lovely, lovely documentation.
Airtable.com/API?
Correct.
You know I'm all about that base. Okay. And should we go to?
And we'll pick our base, which will be the
no trouble.
Received messages.
Okay. Oh.
Okay, so we don't want to check show API key in the top right. We aren't now. Just be aware.
Yeah, I showed it. But you know what? I'll regenerate a new one after this. Anyway.
Yeah, it's also we're not using this. This is probably a really good time for me to mention some of the. You know what? I'm going to get you to regenerate. Then I'm going to mention the shortcomings. Okay. Let's go. Let's just scroll down very slightly in here, and I think let's go over to JavaScript. Sorry, the JavaScript tab.
Yep. And
it'll show you how to give you all the examples using their JavaScript library. And let's scroll down and it will give you the base straight in here. That's why, there you go. The idea of this base is.
Yeah, that one?
Sorry, it was slightly higher
got it.
in section.
Okay.
Fab. So let's go update this. I actually think we got it wrong. So,
wait, what do you mean?
Whoops. When we in the .env, we did the we got the base ID from the URL. I think they're no longer that. They used to be that, and I think they slightly changed it.
Okay, so I just FYI everyone, I'm going to my .m file, updating it with that API, the app ID, and putting it in as the Airtable base. Is that how you would like me to do it, Kevin?
Exactly it. So the error actually from Airtable saying that, hey, you know that base you tried to get me to load? That doesn't exist.
Oh, that's what that error message means? Okay. Cool. No trouble. Okay.
Is this Airtable account only ever been used for this so far?
I mean, I just created an account today, if that's what you mean.
So this isn't a huge issue then. You can regenerate your key after this. This might be a good time to say about the limitations of Airtable. Sure. So security is interesting. What are we?
Nothing. You can keep explaining.
Oh, it said saved. Oh, that's brilliant.
So I think.
So the limitations. I do want to share this. This is really important.
Just sit down.
No, you can continue. I'm just going to explain it over the excitement.
I'll put my mic on mute.
You need is that one key, that one API key, then you have access over the whole account. It has the same privileges as your whole account. They are not scoped to the base. They are not even scoped to workspaces, is what they call them. So you create teams called workspaces. They're not even scoped to a workspace. So if someone has that one key and in theory a base ID as well, they can do full read write over your whole database. This is wonderful. A really wonderful tool to get started with. It's wonderful for little hacks. And it's wonderful in contexts where it just isn't that important. You're not handling data that's that sensitive. But to just have one key, it's saved again.
Yeah. You want to see what it is?
Limit. Go on, let's see what it is. Do I want to see what it is?
Yeah. It says, let Kevin talk.
No, it's fine.
I'm sitting.
You just build insecure things on Airtable. Let's scroll over to the left because there's a field we can't see that should have come up.
Sick, bro. We've got a timestamp.
Sweet, and an Airtable displays that nicely for us, which is wonderful.
No certain dance. No certain dance. No certain dance. No certain dance. Yes! And you said that you wouldn't dance.
Oh God, did you see the board spot in that frame? It's fine, it's gone. I just saw it. I saw it with the delay. All right.
Anyway.
So we have now successfully stored stuff in an Airtable database.
Cool.
I'll show you some other things about Airtable, probably now actually, before we continue. I want to show you some of the cool stuff up top. So we have the filter up at the top. So if you want to tap the filter and kind of look at the options we have, and bear in mind that I'm about 2 seconds behind you. So we can add a filter. There's loads of them. You can add it per field. You can do things like, is it greater than, less than, before, after, in the context of dates? Does it contain partial strings, full strings, start with, end with? And you can also stack them, so you can have multiple filters, and you can do it all here within this visual interface.
Whoa.
It's another really cool
That's
thing,
nice.
which is, it's honestly really, really cool. So there's another thing we can do here. You see where it says grid view? You can drop that down and create another grid view. There are others. There's Kanban, there's calendars, there's gallery, but you can create another grid view.
Why would you do that?
And it's so I'm going to show you. So in here, you can call it something if you want, but you don't have to. So you can apply filters. So you know what we'll do in this filter is we'll get rid of all the empty ones, because it obviously starts with 3 empty strings. So let's create a new filter, and it will get rid of the empty ones. So go ahead and do that.
I forgot how to do that. Oh yeah. So it must contain a message.
I think we can just go, yeah, can't be empty.
It's not empty. Nice. Filtered.
So the nice thing about this is we can now share this filtered view using the share button, which is the penultimate one in that row of icons, the square with the little arrow coming out of it. Yeah. So you could share with a URL just this view. You can hide columns if you want. You can sort or whatever. Share that. And the moment something exists in this whole base that matches this filter, it will populate. But let's say we get something now and that field's empty for some reason. That wouldn't happen in this context. But something, doesn't match the filter, it won't be updated in here. So it gives you the ability to do things like, I run my conference. I have a table with all of my speakers' information. There are some fields that are really just for the organizers, and some that I'm happy to share with the other speakers. So I create a filtered view, I hide rows, I filter a couple of bits out, and then I just share the link to that. And we are all working from the same data set, but with a filter applied. So that's really, really
cool. That's a really good use case, an example of when you would want to use something like that. Cool.
Exactly.
All right, I'm going to pop that into the stream, because why not?
Why not?
Sweet.
So that's pretty cool. That was just a little tidbit. We don't need to do much with it right now. Yeah, we don't need to do much with it. I just wanted to show you that was accessible.
That's really cool. Grid view in Airtable. Just explaining what link I included.
Yeah.
Cool. Did I just do the emoji this one or the bad one?
No, you did a middle finger emoji.
Cool.
You just.
Cool.
Yeah, we don't like the grid view.
As Demetrius said, it's a really small view, so no one can see it anyway. Yes, I am. I meant this one. Ooh, look at that one.
I mean, you are pointing up. You are pointing up. I'll give you that much.
Everyone needs to, you need to be. I keep preaching that live streaming is about being vulnerable and making mistakes. And Lauren, how awfully unprofessional. Oh my gosh. So it works. That's incredible. That is. This is. Cool. What do we do next?
Yes, it's cool. It's not really worthy of the middle finger emoji, is it? Anyway, we'll move on. So we've now pretty much stored everything. There is something missing though, which is we're not storing numbers and we're not populating that numbers field. So that's what we're going to do next.
This is totally empty, right? Oh yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's go back to the code. Okay.
Yes.
Back to the code.
So let's talk through what we need. Let's talk through what we need to do first. I'm not feeling the trial by fire so much with this one, so I'll kind of explain the whole scenario, and then we'll see how it plays out. So what we want to do is we want to first check, does this number exist in the numbers table? If it does exist, we want to grab the ID, of that row because it unfortunately is out of sight. So the API will give it to us, but we can't see it. So we want to grab the ID, and then we want to create a message where we'll provide that ID for the number, and that will link the two records. If that number doesn't exist, we first want to, oh, Doggo is joining me. We first want to create the number.
Show move, show move, show move. Yes! Oh. This is great. This is yes.
He's the best.
He is
You're
the best.
Yes. He's like no pups.
Like,
right.
Please. Amazing. Yes. Hi, Michael.
Right, I completely lost track of where it was.
Happy you're joining us.
Hello.
Yes. Okay, so let's see. So we need to then go to.
We want to check for a number.
Yep.
We want to check for a number first. I think that is the next step. Is let's build in the logic to create the number. And let's for now just say we'll create one every time. And then we'll do some conditional logic later. So before we create the message,
This one?
So before we do that, so right at the top of the inbound endpoint, let's create a number first. So to do that, we're going to do base messages. Base numbers.
Okay.
We're going for the numbers table, and we are going to do .create outside of the
yeah. I don't know why.
No, you're all good. You're all good.
Okay.
.create.
Cool.
And we're going to do the same thing again. That's going to be an object. Now let's quickly take a detour to Airtable just to remind ourselves of what the fields are called.
Would love to. So we in our numbers. It is number and messages. Well, messages comes from, so we don't need that one, right? No.
Correct.
Okay, so
just number.
Fab.
That's the only key we're going to need to provide in this object.
Number.
And the number is rec.body.
No, query.
Scroll. Sorry, rec.query.
Kevin, you have a
MSISDN.
huge fan. BLHO.
Thanks. BLHO. BIHO.
Yeah, see?
B
Chat
is
needs to be bigger. Big takeaway today. I'm going to actually make a to-do list for that fix chat is what I'm going to so next week, tune in next week, same time, same place.
For a more appropriately sized
chat that is viewable. Sorry. I'm also, my 2020 resolution was one to learn to take sarcasm better or teasing better, but the second one was to stop saying sorry so much, and I feel like I've done it 70 times right now, so I'm done. I'm done doing it. What is the number?
The MSISDN.
IDN. Wikipedia MSIS. She was about to say sorry.
If you're interested.
Yes, no, totally. That's the problem. I know. This is also a really vulnerable place for me to practice getting better at getting teased and sarcasm, because a lot of my coworkers like sarcasm and I don't get it at all. I just am, everything I say is just like, I don't get it. It's problematic. Okay, so I'm working on it. Anyway, this is what we're pulling. Do we need anything else?
No, that's the only thing we're going to need here. So just remember that let's already build in the callback function. So we're going to want to check for an error, console log if there's an error, and if there's not, we are going to grab the record. So this time, that res.status should not be in that, just so you're aware.
Res.status. What are you talking about? Oh, here? Oh, if I copy it, so like I can't, I see what you're saying. So don't copy this here.
Correct.
Yeah.
And also this bracket is truant. We don't want it. I'm getting rid of it.
She's truant.
No, I lied.
No, that's right, because...
No, I didn't lie.
But look, this one...
Yes, no.
Yeah, that was wrong, because this pup was having an error on it. So we don't want that to be... It's a... This one here is... This was message is saved. And then this one is number saved?
Yes. Now, there's something more I want us to do here before we wrap up on this.
Okay.
Instead of just having the error parameter, let's throw in a second parameter and call it record, because you can get two. You can get both, and you can get both on messages as well. It's not really that important for us to have the messages one, but it is for numbers because we need the ID of the new record.
So what does that look, or where would you like that?
So over here where it says error, wrap that in parentheses, provide a second argument called record.
Like that?
Perfect. And that record will now contain the whole Airtable record that's just been entered. So let's console.log that.
Sure.
And the record, the record, and take a look at what that looks like. Let's try this out again.
Let's do it. All right. Burn our phone. I need to learn how to use Androids. Okay.
How are we doing on time, by the way? How long do you like these?
What? It's pretty late where you are, so we probably have to wrap it up soon, I imagine.
It's all good. Okay. It's all good.
Dang! Look at that. Okay, so we just got some stuff.
So scroll up a little, and you'll see a property that's called ID.
I do. I see that.
Right. ID is what we want. Okay. And annoyingly, the only way to seem to get this ID is through the API. There's no like visual. It doesn't save as a field. It's just the ID, which is slightly annoying. But we're going to want that ID because that is what we're going to pass in to link the two tables.
You know, you bring up a good point. I didn't ask why we were doing that at all, and so I understand now. So where do we put that? Where do we pass that in?
So we've got this. I think we're going to need to do a little bit of cleanup here, a little bit of logic.
Sure.
There are multiple ways to interact with Airtable. When I've been using it recently, I've been using a community kind of abstraction of the library, which allows you to do promises and async await, and it makes it all look a little nicer. Okay. So we're about to do some hunky nesting to get this to work, but it will be fine.
Sure.
So the first thing we're going to do is what are we going to do? Let's have a think.
What are you thinking about right now? How to organize the logic of taking that?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think like what from here should maybe be broken out into a separate function.
Okay.
Just because we're going to need to run it a couple of times. Okay. And I think actually it is the create message logic.
This one?
So lines 19 through 26, I think should become its own function because there are two contexts we're going to want to run it. So what we're going to end up doing is checking if the number exists. Okay. If it does exist, we're just going to create the message. If it doesn't exist, we're going to create the number and then we're going to create the message. Because that logic lives in two places, rather than copying and pasting this code, let's just create a function. In fact, let's create a function right in place of this code. So instead of let's create it inside of this inbound event handler. Not the nicest way to do it, but it will be the way we do it today.
Okay, so literally, you mean...
Yeah, let's just call it create message.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah.
And then we'll pass it in.
It's going to be a couple of things. We'll want the what will we want?
Probably, do we need that? Well, we just copied and paste that, or this record?
Let's just throw in the whole, just call it data and we'll throw in the whole rec.query. But we'll just, fab.
Number record ID, yeah.
Yes, but we also want all the other fields as well. Okay, so I am. Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, no, you're right. The data and the number record. Yes.
What do you want me to call that? Number ID?
Number ID,
Sure.
number,
Sure.
yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Great, and let's just move that
All
the
of it?
code below it and before its status. Let's just throw that in there.
And the status?
No, before that.
The status. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say, please can we indent it?
Oh,
Brilliant.
yeah,
Okay,
sure,
so
of course.
we now got this create message function. So now at the top, now that we know we can save numbers, we know we can save messages.
Yeah.
Let's start by. I'm trying to think when we should do the whole checking if a number exists. We'll do it next. We won't. We'll do it a couple of steps away. We won't do it yet. So instead of .log record.
In that function, rec.query should be data. Yeah, so we should turn all these into
Yes,
datas.
good catch. Thank you.
I think I was sitting on that being like, why haven't we updated? Okay. Data, and then data. Okay. Cool. Thank you. Good catch.
Yes, thank you.
So
now, instead of console log record on line 16, we're now going to call this function along with the record.id, which is there. So, on line 16.
Yep.
So we're going to create the number. We're going to have the record.
To save your number ID. Yeah.
We'll do that in just a moment.
Okay, so we're going to call that right here. Create.
Yeah.
And we're passing in the
whole rec.query.
Rec.query.
And then we'll throw in the record.id.
Is that what?
No, it's record because it's returned from Airtable on line 13.
Sorry, damn it. Record. Yes, we've already passed that in. Record, and you said it was called ID?
.id. That is correct.
.id. Okay. So this is not being.
We're not doing anything with it, and this is where we get to link. This is where we get to link the two, and I'm quite. This is good.
This is good.
So what we're going to do here is we are going to add one more property, and the property is going to be called number. I think numbers is what it's called. It was automatically created when we created messages in numbers. So remember, it was that two-way link. It's called numbers in one, messages in the other.
This one, the link between.
Yes.
Yeah, numbers and messages. Yeah. So how do we?
So here where we have our object.
Yeah.
We want to just add one more property to it, and that property is going to be called numbers.
Numbers.
Numbers is the name of the field,
Plural.
and this is an array. Numbers, yes, I believe it's a plural, and it's just going to have one value, one link, and the link will be. Oh, apparently we're having Moo as a host.
Yep, love it.
And inside this array, it will have a single value, and that will be the number ID. What I would love is if we could pass it the name of the record, the unique identifier in that first column. But no, we must provide the API provided unique identifier, which is record.id. So that is now in as message ID. Let's give this a whirl. Let's see how it all works.
Okay. Just looking through this,
So
our inbound, just double checking that I understand it. Thanks for the stream. Gotta head out. Yes, I will. Demetrius, reach out. Thank you so much for watching and giving this a view. All right, so I'm going to run our server again and then turn on. Let's see. Send a message.
Yeah. All right, it says number saved, it says message saved in your console.
Oh, great. That means someone else helped us out with that. Thank you. Great.
And again.
So let's pop over to, let's go to the browser view and check it out. Unnamed More dancing. Got an enthusiastic bunch. Is that how we want it to load?
I can't see your browser in the stream.
I think it is just.
But that's because my stream froze. This is me.
No worries.
Everything froze.
I will describe
Oh no,
for
we're not actually frozen.
what it looks like. Oh, cool. Wait, hold on. I have a question. What is?
I saw it.
Okay. It says unnamed record.
Let's go, and that is because the first column does not have data in it. It's the first column that we use to identify. Let's go back over to numbers. I think we misnamed a field in our code.
Yeah. Well, in the we have.
It's called number, and over here it's called number. MSI. Oh, you made a typo.
I did. Yeah.
In your code. It's all right. It's in the. I kept making a typo in at the start of this job. So it's rec.query.msisdn. There's a second I in yours, and that does not exist.
And in line 12?
So the second I, get rid of it.
Yeah, you know what? I'll go on record now saying I've never spelled that right before. I am super dyslexic, and like acronyms like this, they don't make sense. But cool. So MSIDS, whatever. I'm not going to try and.
It looks good to me now.
Okay.
Looks good to me now.
Cool. Let's go back over to the browser, and if anyone wants to give that a shot again, robot. Go.
What does MSISDN stand for? I actually popped. I went down a Wikipedia rabbit hole when I first saw this acronym. Let me go find it. I posted it in here earlier.
Cool.
MSISDN.
Okay, so now we're getting messages, but it's still saying unnamed record. Oh wait, but if we then open it up.
Yeah. So they are linked successfully. Because it exists, it's just that we're not saving the number. Oh, why is that happening?
Right?
Ooh.
The number.
I am going to just post in here for
the link.
People who want to nerd out and go down rabbit holes, the MSISDN and Wikipedia page. Let's take a look at this. So you're creating it. You're passing in a number that has rec.query.msisdn, which I think is correct.
Yeah. Misden. Oh, we're pronouncing. It's supposed to be pronounced Misden.
MSISDN.
I think Airtable does that because you have to filter enable and new entries don't match the filter. Oh, interesting. So turn off my filter, maybe? No, wait.
No, because the rows are then the whole row wouldn't show. It wouldn't be that columns would be missing. It's the entire rows would be gone. So the fact we're seeing rows with unnamed records, yeah. Says there's still a problem here. Did we restart the app? No.
We didn't? Thanks.
Did we restart the Node app?
Good shout. I thought I had. Well, let's give it a shot. Let's do it again.
Aaron, I need you around in my screen. This is brilliant. Thank you.
It's incredible. Yeah, we would know. I mean, I really appreciate it. It's awesome.
But that's exactly it. Yeah, it was. We didn't restart the Node app because there shouldn't be an issue here.
Okay. There we go. And it's there. Woohoo! Stream dance.
Yeah,
stream
sweet.
Dance, stream
That's
dance.
brilliant.
We did it. We did what we said we would. I love when.
I was a much more athletic dance than I was ready for. I'm tired watching you.
I know. I haven't gone for my run yet today, so the energy is booming. This is very exciting. So this means that we, let's see. Thank you for realizing that we needed to restart it, but we have now received messages and now we're storing them in Airtable, and that was the goal of the stream.
Yeah, there's a couple of other tiny things we're going to need to do for housekeeping, which we'll do in a moment. But first, let's take a look at some of the Airtable things. If you click on one of the numbers in this view, so one of the two new numbers, you'll see that it links, it will show you the whole number record associated with it. So if you click the actual number itself.
Okay. Oh, wow. So it does, record for messages.
And it shows you, look, it's come over from the numbers table. There it is. You could link to another one manually, but we've just done that using the API by passing the message ID in the array. Or the number ID in the array, sorry.
Okay, cool.
So that's now linked. And if you go back over to numbers.
Yeah, let's do that.
You'll see that there is an immediate link with messages, even though we didn't explicitly state that.
Cool.
We stated it from the other side, and the link is two ways.
I like
which is really nice.
That's really helpful.
Now,
one cool abstraction you can do with the middleware, something like, yeah. That's a good call. That's a good shot.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, no, don't get me wrong. This is not a pretty application. I wouldn't deploy something like this. But I think it's a really good way of just seeing how it all works.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's just a way to. Yeah, I think and you're right. It is funny when you copy things into the page or paste things into the chat. It does come out weird formatting wise. It doesn't take it, but
yeah,
looks like that kind of thing. I write. Yeah.
Absolutely no comments. So I suppose the last bit of housekeeping we need to do is, as you'll notice, or you won't notice because it hasn't happened, but if anyone who sent us one of those two messages us again, we'll actually be creating a new row for it. And we don't want that. We want to see all the messages sent by a single number.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So in fact, we'll see it in a moment.
Yeah, so
let's just kind of get...
Look, so here they're the same, but they... in the messages, they're coming
But they shouldn't be, right?
Yeah.
But they shouldn't be. What we actually want is messages to have two items. Is your messages on one of your numbers to have two items attached to it.
Cool.
Even though in numbers here, you can see that they clearly are the same number, they are actually different rows. So we want to avoid that. We want to do a check, and in the case that they match, we want to just assign it to the existing one. So what I'm going to ask you to do is actually delete those extra records. So there's only one from each number in Airtable. So we'll do it in Airtable. So we'll just delete a couple of rows.
Okay.
So the last two in messages and the last two in numbers.
Can I just
yeah.
delete? Oh, sick. So this is, wait.
You can just right click. You can just right click on the rows. Yeah.
But I'm trying to look for, how do I, these all look unique. Because they're UUIDs.
So the UUIDs for the messages are?
Yeah, but if I go
I'm just
over
trying
here,
to...
will it be? Can I find the unique ones? Or how do we know which ones to delete?
We're literally just going to delete 12 and 13 here.
Oh, okay. All right, we did that.
In numbers. Yeah, we're just going to delete the last couple, the ones where there's been duplicates. And now we're going to just put some logic in place. Yeah?
Yeah, cool.
Because when new ones come in, we want to assign it against the single record that already exists. We want to get rid of the duplicates. All right, so at the moment we are creating a number, then we're creating a message. We do not always want to create a number. We want to check if the number exists. If it doesn't, then we'll do this logic. And if it does, we actually just want the ID from that record. And then we want to provide that to create a message, right? So the first thing we're going to do in order to achieve this is we are going to use, what did Airtable call it in their API? Select. So we're going to go base numbers dot select.
Okay.
And then that's a method, so some parentheses and some and an object. And so you don't have to provide this. If you don't, it will grab every number that exists, but we specifically want to get ones that match a filter. Okay. And the nice thing is with the API is you can, those nice filters we played around with earlier, it wasn't in vain, it's because I wanted to show you the visual version, and now we'll do it in code.
Okay, cool.
So we can provide a property called filter by formula, and that's a capital B and a capital second F. So filter by formula, and that the value of that will be a string.
Okay.
Let's use just a string. And so this is going to get a little. I'm not overly fond on like the formatting of this. It took me a little while to learn, but we are going to do number.
Okay.
So where the number field is equal to, and then a value, and that value will be. And so we're going to have to come out of this string now because now we're going to want to add, and then we are going to want to add rec.query dot what is it, MSISDN.
Great.
Have fun with that.
Great.
I'll watch you. I'll watch you like a hawk.
Yahoo! I think I did
That's
it.
the one.
That's it.
Fabulous.
There she is.
So now that is we've selected them, and then at the end of this, we're going to go dot each page. Pages can have up to 100 results in them. In theory, there should only ever be 1 or 0 in our application, but it will return 100 if this query would return if there were more to return. And in here, we are just going to do records. Records, it's a function. So this is a parameter and then an arrow.
Yeah.
An arrow function and squiggly brackets. Great. So records now contains all of the records that matches that formula, which is where the number is equal to the incoming MSISDN.
Okay.
So in other words, if your phone number already exists in the database, there will be 1 result. If it doesn't, there'll be 0 results in records. Records is an array.
Okay.
So
I believe you.
What we're going to do is check the length of it. So we're going to go if records.length. If and then brackets. Parentheses, round brackets.
Sorry. No, actually. Yeah,
No,
actually, that I know that. Okay. If it length is
if records.length equal to 0, so 2 equals and then 0. Fabulous. So then so we can come out of the bracket now and do some squiggly brackets. So if the number already exists, let's just go and create a message. So we're going to go create message because the number already exists. We don't need to create a number now. We just need to create a message.
Okay. And then
the first item will again be rec.query.
Okay.
And the second item will be records, which is an array.
Okay.
And then in square brackets, 0, which will get the first item in the array, which should, in theory, be the only item.
Okay.
Then we're going to want to go. .id. Yeah, I think that's correct. And so that is the ID of the first item in the numbers table that has come back to us based on that query, which should be our phone number.
Okay, right. Okay.
There should only in our context there'll either be 1 or 0. So we'll never let there be 2.
But if we're not wanting, if there isn't 0, if there is one, okay, yeah. Then what do we want it to be done?
We want to take everything from lines 19 through 25 and we just want to put that in the else statement.
Okay.
Which is essentially, first we want to create a number, then grab the ID from it, and then create a message. Okay, so let's just talk through this once more and then we'll just check it works.
Okay.
So a new message comes in, right?
Yep.
A new message comes in. And the first thing we're going to do is grab the number from the numbers table. Every record that matches a filter that is the number field matches our phone number. I.e., do we already have a record?
Okay.
Yes. If that is the case, if that array is empty, okay, we've done this the wrong way around.
Mm-hmm.
If there's 0. So let's actually just change that to, instead of equal to 0, let's do greater than 0.
Yeah, exactly. Because we want to create a fun.
Yeah. Exactly. So if there is an item in that array, we are going to grab the ID of the first one. We're going to just create a message. We don't need to create a new number. It exists. We know what its ID is.
Yeah.
However, if that isn't the case, we'll create a new number, then we'll create an associated message.
Okay. And then and then we'll create. Okay. I believe it all, and then this is just always running for all of them.
Exactly, because we use it in a couple.
Yeah. Okay. So let's restart our server because that was our issue last time. And those that are with us, feel free to play along. This is me.
Okay.
Let's try.
Excited about together.
Let's try this, and let's get an emoji, and it's gonna be okay. Cool. Let's hop to our browser.
I see a couple of messages have been saved,
Right.
and I haven't seen number saved, and it came from your number that already exists. So that should have worked nicely.
Okay, so this one's mine. Dance party. So where do we want?
So numbers, let's go over to numbers.
Yeah.
This is the one where we actually see if we've been effective or not. And we should see a couple of messages.
We see multiple rows.
Wait a minute, there's something wrong here. Oh, I think I know what the issue is. Drop that, open the configuration for the messages column.
Sure. The configuration for it. Where do I see the configuration?
In here, so in numbers, in the messages field.
Oh,
so in
I
the
see.
numbers
Okay.
tab,
Yeah.
in the messages field, there was one checkbox earlier that I said, yeah, you know what, don't worry about that. That's not important. So we're going to customize field type at the top.
You go oh, here it is. I see. Customize field type.
At the very top.
Allow linking to multiple records.
Is it currently turned off?
It's turned on.
Oh,
It's green.
well, then it just isn't working, is it? Let's take another look.
It says, and I could turn on the limit record selection to a view. No,
that's not what we want. I thought that was turned off. Let's just hit save and get rid of this dialogue.
Okay. Now, should I delete? Should it be the number that allows multiple?
So in the numbers tab, it will be that it can have multiple messages, but every message will only have a single number. So there'll never be one message with two numbers because it'll only ever come from a single number. So it won't be that one.
Okay. Okay, so want to go back to the code.
I think I have a hunch what it is, and I actually think it's our filter by formula. Just want to, just curious if that is.
So if you're in the chat
correct.
and you were looking at our code, feel free to help or try to spot it as well.
So I think this is often the line that causes me issues. Let me just double check it. Filter by formula, that all looks good, is equal to number equals, and then the MSISDN. You know what we'll do? A really nice exercise is, I think, why don't we console.log records when it comes in and take a look at what is actually returned by this. That should give us a good indication of what's playing out.
Let's do it. Okay.
Records, multiple.
Oh yeah, of course. Dang, 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 dang away. Here we go. Okay. All right, we got it.
Right. Now, let me take a look at this. So we have a record come back.
Numbers.
Which is great. We have another record come back, which is right in the context of what's happened, but that was an error that should not have happened. Records.
Number. Okay.
Interesting. Indeed.
That looks good, right?
If records.length is greater than 0, then we'll go and we'll just create a message.
Dang. Hey, hold on. Look. In our browser, can we see the code again? You definitely can. I think it's working though.
Oh, it did. It did work.
Working.
We just didn't have it wide enough. That's so funny. Okay, brilliant. Non-issue.
So if you're trying to help us decode, thank you so much. I think we're good. Amazing.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So now when we get incoming messages.
Yeah.
No, this still isn't right. It shouldn't have created a new number though.
No.
Oh no, it's because we didn't delete. It's because we didn't delete the first two.
So do you want to just delete?
That is the whole issue.
We just delete all of them.
10. You know what? Let's delete everything. Let's start again. And in fact, let's just literally delete them all. There's a checkbox right up at the top of the checkbox. Let's get rid of all of them. Let's get rid of all the messages. Let's try it again.
Okay, so numbers deleted, messages deleted.
Wonderful. And let's
clear data.
let's try
it's
that
asking
again.
me, it's double checking. Do I want to clear the 45 cells? Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, gosh, I would like to take out that log. So.
Sure.
And then start it up again. Okay.
I love issues that aren't issues, and I'm glad we didn't spend too long on it.
Right. Okay, so I'm now over in. Okay.
And send in just one more message. Send in a couple.
Okay, of course, yeah. So then we can see. Wait, nothing's going on in. Oh, it's because it's down below. Second message.
Oh, you didn't delete the rows. You just deleted the cells, but it's fine.
Okay.
It works for this use case. So we can see right there. We can see right there in row 15, we now have 2 messages associated with this user, and now you can do really cool things like we can create another row, we can create another column. Sorry.
Okay.
Is
anyone else ever, when you're saying the word column and row, do you have to go column, row? Because I do. When I remember the difference between them, I have to go column. Okay, maybe not. Just me. Okay.
Let's call it count.
Oh.
I'll just let one hack. We'll create one called count. And for a type, there are a ton of different types, but there's a few that are really cool. Towards the bottom, there's formulas where you can do fun stuff with other items in that row. There are ones called. In fact, can we just go down together? So there's like one called count. There's ones called roll up. I'll lead you to read the document. But if we just go count.
Okay. And it's going to count the messages.
Yeah, and if we hit save, this field will just be a number. So now you can really easily see, hey, this person sent me X many messages, that person sent me.
This is so cool.
So we can see, yeah, no, and we didn't have to write any code to do that. That's just kind of there for you, which is nice. So I suppose the very final thing, and hopefully this will not take us too long, is let's respond to the user and actually tell them that we actually received a text. This is great. We've initialized. Oh, we haven't done anything. We set up an application on the Vonage API platform. We've not actually done anything yet. So I think as a final piece, when we have been successful, let's send a message. How do you feel about that? I feel really
good about that, as long as you have time.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Cool. So this I think this again isn't the nicest code, but let's do it in create message, because create message should always be run. So where we've done message save, the constant log message save.
Yep.
Let's under that.
Okay.
Oh no, hang on. We've missed a key step. We've not actually included or initialized the Nextmo library.
Are we going to go up here and pull in? We need to pull Nextmo.
Yeah, we've got to include the library with require Nextmo.
Yep. We've installed Nextmo.
And then on let's initialize it.
Yeah.
So that'll be new lowercase n here, and then new Nextmo with a capital N.
New Nextmo, and this is going to be a moment where we are going to we'll pull from our end file. I'm going to pop those in a second.
Yeah.
Const Vont.
So you're going to need the application ID, and you're going to need the private key. Oh yeah.
We've gone through a rebrand, and our company's. Yeah, we're working on it. I'm a little secret. It is going to be this, and it's going to be. Let's just write this out. Process.env.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? Nextmo secret. And then let's do this here, and that's going to be Nextmo key. Cool. And then what else did you say we need? App ID?
You're going to want process.env.nextmo key.
Oh, yeah. Thanks. Oh, I love doing this because it's like immediate eyes on something, you know?
Yeah. We could do this in the .env file, but this could also just be a string. We'll dump it in the .env file, but remember, this was the string on that application page that I said keep open for later. And then did you ever move private key 15 from your downloads folder into this folder?
I would love to do that right now, though. So let's take her here and drop her in, and oh, dangling. And let's rename. Yeah, whatever.
It wasn't all of it.
Yeah.
It will die after this.
Shall we name her something other than 15? Okay. And we have the private key, and that goes, we'll have to just do a direct private, what do I call it? Key. Sick. How's that look, everyone?
Yes.
What do we think? All right, so let's pop up the secrets tab super quick so I can put in my keys and actually, you all can, let's look at the browser view because we can look at the, what did we call it? Here, we need this application for sure. Application.
I can see, yeah, you need that. And then, yes, I can just see the browser.
Yeah. So that we were gonna call that the Nexmo underscore application ID, I think.
Yeah, and you didn't put a delimiter. Yeah, exactly like that.
Odd. But you know, we make choices and on the fly, and then we called it Nexmo API key. API. Oh, Nexmo
underscore
secret.
key and Nexmo underscore secret.
Yep, thank you. Super helpful. Nexmo secret. Thrilling stuff for you all to watch right now. Okay, I'm just gonna put the actual secrets page really quickly because we need to. Key and secret. And we'll save it, and we will close that page, and we will go to the code view, and I believe we have all of that initialized. Thrilling. Okay, so now that we've actually
let's use it.
Now let's go down to, we were in the create method, the create message method and function, and we were going to do what?
So we're going to use the messages API. So there are going to be a couple of objects that we're going to need to write. But let's just do those in line. So let's go nexmo.channel.send.
Okay.
And that is a method, so parentheses. Now there are going to be 3 objects that we need to provide, and then an optional callback. So the first one is going to be the number that we are going to send a message to. So that is going to, so this object is going to have 2 properties. The first property is called type.
Okay.
And in string, let's put SMS. The reason we have to provide this is with the same API, we can send messages to Facebook, to WhatsApp, to Viber, and the type will kind of denote which platform we're going to send it to. And so this isn't just going to be MSISDN, it's going to be data.msisdn because we are passing in that whole object into this function. So that is who we're sending it to. Next is going to be the number we are going to send it from. So this object looks exactly the same, but it's going to have a type of text. The difference obviously will be the actual value of number. And in here, we're going to put our Nexmo number, our Vonage API number.
I don't know if can I hard code that? Is that okay?
You can grab it from the applications page.
Will be mad at me for that, but we're gonna do it.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think I am mistaken. An MSISDN denotes a phone number in a specific format. So we are passing in an MSISDN as a string, but it will have it. The format is what makes it an MSISDN. So no +1, no zeros in brackets. An MSISDN for a US number looks like that.
Okay.
And then the final object that we need to provide is the actual text we're going to send. So let's create another another
Okay.
object.
And then you said it was going to be...
And this object is going to have content.
Yep.
Content is going to be an object in itself. This is then going to have a type, and we are going to do text.
Okay.
That was a semicolon instead of a normal colon.
Good spot.
You are all good. And then the other property is text.
The other property is text.
It's called text, and its value will be whatever we want to send to the user. So let's say we received your message. You know, we'll be very dry with this, I suppose. You could be a bit more exciting.
Cool.
Yes, 2 S's in message.
Oh, oh my gosh.
I mean,
Messages.
Just make me.
We received your message. Okay, thank you. And then what is that it for that?
Yes, and then finally, we're just going to throw in the callback function just to check if there is an error. So it will be a function. So after this object, we'll do a comma,
that's what I was...
then we'll write a function. Its property will be, we'll call it Nexmo error, just so we can
distinguish between, differentiate, I guess is probably a better word. Nexmo error. Okay, and then what do we want? Like a...
we could do loads of fancy stuff in here. We're just going to go, if there is a Nexmo error, then just console log that there's an error. You could do other things in here, of course, if you want. It just helps us spot errors if they're about to occur.
Otherwise, we'll return it.
Yeah.
Okay. Ooh, whoa! Don't highlight it all.
All right, let's save that and start again. Not start again, but save that and text the number.
Okay. Okay. I think that sure. I'm excited. Let's go back to the browser view and take a look at the received, or maybe the messages. No, wait. The messages. Let's keep draining Lauren. I bet that says let's keep draining Lauren's Nexmo account. My credit. Hey, for these purposes, we're learning.
Watching the pennies go out of your personal bank account. Goodbye forever.
Actually, let's look over at that. That'll be kind of funny. 21. Wait, let's refresh. Oh, dang it, it's closed. Logged me out. Okay, so we received my test text that says testing. It's counting them. And, I didn't show what we were working on. Ta-da! We received a message. Or we received your message. Amazing.
That's brilliant.
That is brilliant.
Okay, so.
Walk me through, give me a summary. Go.
All right, we've initialized all of the libraries. We've included all the libraries, initialized Airtable, initialized a Nexmo client as well. When we receive a text, we will get that data sent to us as a GET request to /inbound. When we do that, first thing we're going to do is check Airtable, the numbers base, for all of the numbers that match the incoming number. Right, and that will result in this array called records. If records has any values in it at all, we are going to grab the ID from the first item, which in theory should be the only item, and we're going to create a new message against that number. And if that isn't the case, if there are no numbers that exist, if this is a fresh number that we've never heard from before, we'll create a new number, then we'll take the ID of that record, and we will create a new message with that, which then links them. And then you get to do all the cool Airtable referencing bits.
Awesome.
And then I suppose what's worth noting is then this create message function, which isn't as exciting. We are just creating a new message. And then if successful, we will just send a response to the user so they know something was worked. In theory, if we were to do this properly, we would also want to send a message if there's an error. So the user always gets some form of response and isn't left wondering.
Oh, good point.
And I think that is well, I mean, I don't feel that you need to do it for the sake of this. I've just said, if you are going to do it, you should.
But actually, let's take a note over to my browser and take, sending these messages doesn't cost a ton of money. So we were joking that it was going to drain. If you remember, we were at 21. We're still at a good amount of euros for, this testing purposes. So Yeah, I think that is just like noteworthy.
Yeah, inbound is very, very, very cheap, and outbound is cheap as well. Not as cheap as inbound, but
around.
we've only sent out 2 texts.
Yeah, and
so.
I think too, so we have this the code or coupon code right below here, and that'll get you €10 to just like kind of start playing, and I think this is a really fun kind of getting started bit. That if anyone's curious, I would love to see kind of other addition or modifications, optimizations, or places that you could go with it. I think that could be really cool.
Yeah. I absolutely love Airtable as a database because you don't have to build these admin interfaces. You don't need to build all the filtering functionality. It's all just there. People can interrogate the data as they see fit using Airtable filters and sorts and the like. You can create views that other people can't see, which is really nice, or a reduced view that maybe you share with different people. And it was just really easy to get that message in, do something with it, and then respond once it was done.
Sure. Well, thank you, Kevin, for being a part of the stream today. I had a ton of fun. I learned a lot. I'm hooked on Airtable now. I'm definitely going to continue playing with that. And then it's also just a great demonstration of what it looks like to receive a message and then send one back, and those are that's the bread and butter of Vonage APIs. So there's definitely more to be playing with. We have tons of other ones to explore. As you can see on this browser view in our dashboard, there's many APIs to kind of dive deep into, but this was a great introductory of it all. So
I'm really glad. Could I do the shameless plug on my stream while we're here?
I would love you to.
Awesome. Every other week, this is the not week. I did it on Friday. I'll do it next Friday. It is my stream, no experience required. It is a completely suitable for beginners coding stream where we will pick up one of our products every week and kind of show you how to use it without any prior programming knowledge. Last time we built a Facebook bot from scratch, and I mean like you don't know how to code and you are writing your first line of code. And next time I think we're going to do something with the video API because I think that's a cool one.
And then tomorrow we also have the low code hour going. The topic is going to be Node-RED and tips and tricks and fun things that you can do with that and in correspondence with our APIs. And then we also debuting this week, we have a new show on Friday that is called The Late Night Build with Michael Jolly, and it is going to be a weekly wind down stream in the vein of Tonight Show or Graham Norton, but it's going to be a really fun one. Kevin, I know you're presenting during it. We're going to have a musical guest, a guest.
I'm not the musical.
No, someone else incredible who we love so much is going to be the musical guest. We're building it out as we speak right now. It's going to be super fun and cool, but just something to look forward to. In the future, we've got a lot of content coming out on this stream, and it's turning into a really fun place to be. So thank you for being a part of the community. Please tweet at us fun favorite moments that you had during the stream today or other things that you're building out with our APIs. We always want to hear from you. But with that, my name is Lauren, this is Kevin, and we really appreciate you all joining us today in the stream. So long for now. Shall we? Yeah,
Goodbye.
Let's head off. Let's go to Vitas and adieu. Okay, I'm gonna stop streaming. Bye.